we're going to talk about something that we don't have to look too far to find an expert for, and that is life insurance. We recently posted that Sears had canceled 90,000 life insurance policies for its employees. And it begs the question, like, should people be going through their jobs to gain life insurance? Over the past, I guess, 20 to 30 years, America has kind of switched. Like 108 million people have gone through the group route, while 102 million people have gone through the private method of getting life insurance, which is like the first time that that's happened in history. So we have our own expert. In 2000, give me if I'm wrong with the year, 2006?
I think 2007.
2007. I sat down with a financial planner who's starting in the business. He needed a client, and he looked across and he said, "Yo, Troy, you gotta get life insurance." Now at 25, I'm thinking, come on, man, why do I need life insurance? And then we had a deeper conversation. I'm like, oh, Rashad, he's pretty serious about this. So we went through the process, and I got life insurance, and maybe you could talk to people why it's so valuable and so desperately important, and how we've seen some cases where people didn't have life insurance and the outcome of what it left their family with, right? Because it's not really for the people who die, it's for the people who remain living, right? So, yeah, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. Yes. So for anybody that's not familiar, I'm a financial advisor. That's what I do for a living, right? So I started, 11 years ago, around that time frame. And yes, my first week in the business, my first client was Troy.
Yes, surely.
And yes, I sold him a life insurance policy. That was and then 11 years later,
still got it.
He's still a client of mine.
Yeah.
So I do a few different things. I help people invest money, retirement, and life insurance is one of the things that I do as well. So before I start, I'm not taking a side on any policy. Life insurance is very debatable. They're very passionate about this. I've noticed online. You have very strong opinions.
Right.
So I'm not here to tell you which is the best policy, what you should do. Just provide information. You can make your own decisions for yourself, right? But it is interesting that Sears canceled 90,000 policies for retirees, because it does highlight something that is important. Is a lot of times people have insurance at their job, and they think that that's sufficient, right? Like most things, when it comes to finance, people aren't properly educated a lot of times, right? So they don't really fully understand life insurance or even why it's important, how to get it. They don't really know. So they just say, okay, I have it at my job and whatever. It is what it is, right? So now it's to say, okay, which is better, the insurance at your job or the insurance that you can get privately through an institution or a company, right? I always recommend both, right? Because the insurance at your job, the good thing about that is that it's usually very low as far as premiums are concerned. Or sometimes it's even free. So it's not really costing you anything. So it's always good to have, right? But the problem with having it as your only type of insurance is what we just saw, right? Is that a lot of times it's not portable, meaning that you can't take it with you when you retire. Or if you can take it with you, then the premium may go up because now you're no longer part of that group. It's like health insurance, right? Like if you leave your job, now you can still keep your health insurance for a certain amount of time, but you're on what's called COBRA, right? So now your health insurance premiums go up. So sometimes the life insurance is the same. Well, even if the life insurance premiums stay the same, it's still subject to the company. They can change it. So just like what Sears did, right? So, okay. First of all, we need to talk about and understand why life insurance is important, right?
Yeah.
So it's important for a few different reasons, but the main reason, obviously, is that you want to provide a certain level of comfort, and you want to leave a legacy, and you want to be able to take care of your financial responsibilities when you're no longer here. I always say all the time, it's nobody's responsibility to take care of your family except for you, right? And that's men or women, right? Because we live in a society where men and women work, and a lot of times women make more money than the men, right? They're the breadwinners in the home. Or they may be single parents on both sides, or even if you don't have a children, you still have responsibilities, right? So I equate, it's unfortunate a lot of times, especially in our community, when somebody passes away and other people have to raise money for them, right? Like GoFundMe pages and things like that.
We've seen that.
That would be kind of like, and this is no shame on anybody because you have to do what you have to do, but I'm just saying as far as if that person didn't plan properly, right?
Yeah.
That would be the equivalent of somebody coming into your home and having to pay your bills for you, right? It's your responsibility to take care of that, right? So that's what life insurance does, right? It allows your family to go on and to take care of your responsibility when you pass, as far as just the basics of burying yourself, but also, putting your kids in school and making sure that they have clothes to wear and that they can go to college and things of that nature, right? Yeah. So, and it's important that we start to think long term too, because when we talk about generational wealth, that's like a real popular term, but what does that really mean, right? That means that you want to create wealth for generations.
Right.
So one of the easiest ways to create wealth for generations is to have a life insurance policy, right? Because what you're doing is actually buying money, right? So that's one of the most efficient, one of the easiest ways to create generational wealth, because it's a trendy term, but the average person doesn't have a multi-million-dollar business that they can leave. The average person doesn't have $5 million in a bank that they can leave, right? The average person might not even have a home. They might not even own a home. But you can own an insurance policy. You can have $100,000, $500,000, $1 million. That's realistic, right? So this is something that can actually be obtained in real life, not just a catchy phrase.
Yeah. So at 25, when you told me that, and I was, in my mind, I'm not even thinking about life insurance. But when I saw how serious you were about it, I'm like, wait, this makes perfect sense. I mean, you detailed it just like how you did now, straight from me. And I was like, wow, I have to get this as early as possible.
And you planned for the future, because when you bought the insurance, you were single,
right?
Yep. But now you have a family, you have kids, you have a wife, you have a home. So now you really need it, right?
It makes more sense. I'm like, wow, that's a good thing I've had this for 11 years now, right? Like, it meant so much. I just want to go back, because you said the premium is so low when you do it at your job. One of the things that studies have shown is that the insurance amounts are a lot lower when you do it with a group. So it ranges from $25,000 policy to maybe a $50,000 policy. Whereas that might not even cover what you need as far as your financial responsibilities in the event that something happens to you. So like, you want to talk about the difference in the amounts?
Yeah, so I'll talk about the amount, but first I want to actually just talk about the different types of policies. Okay. Right? There's different types of policies. So there's really a few different types of policies, but it comes down to two: term policies and a permanent policy, right? And there's different types of permanent policies, but a term policy is a policy that lasts a term. Right? So like 10, 15, 20-year term, right? So you have life. This is what most people think about when they think about life insurance. It's the most basic form of insurance. Where you have an insurance policy, you pay a premium, and if you die, somebody gets money. So it's a term. So let's say it's a 20-year term, right? So you're paying a premium for 20 years. If you die before that 20-year mark is up, then your family gets money. If you outlive that term, now you can reapply for the insurance anymore. You can let it lapse. You don't have it anymore, but it's just a certain period of time. Right? That's a term. And then most group insurance is, if your job, it's for as long as you work at that job, or sometimes it could be extended in retirement. But so that's one form of it, where it's just a premium, a death benefit, and that's it. Okay. The flip side to that coin is what's called permanent insurance, right? So permanent insurance, most of the time, is most commonly known as what's called whole life insurance. There are different types of permanent, but we'll just keep it basic. Whole life insurance, right? Whole life insurance lasts your whole life. You pay a premium, you have a death benefit, but it also builds what's called cash value. Cash value is money that grows inside of the life insurance policy, right? And the money that grows inside of the life insurance policy, now you can use down the line, and you can borrow from the policy. Right now, that's a benefit that you can use while you're alive. So,
and that's good for people who say, well, some people don't really care what they leave for their family, or whoever else. If they're single, they have no wife or anything.
Right, because now you're actually saving money as well, so it's a double-edged sword, right? So now some people say, okay, well, only buy term insurance, don't buy whole life insurance. Or some people say only buy whole life insurance, don't buy term insurance. I'm of the mindset that no shoe is ever going to fit all foot, right? So you have to, see what's best for you and your family, because they both have advantages, and they both can be beneficial, and they both have things that may not be attractive, right? So, but one thing that I want to keep in mind for our listeners is that one of the big things why people say buy term and don't buy whole life is that it's what's called buy term and invest the difference. Whereas they're saying that, well, whole life isn't a good investment, because if you invested your money in stock or an investment, it would earn more than the rate of return that it would get in a whole life policy. That's true. But it's not an investment. It's life insurance, right? So it's like, it's an apples to oranges. It's an apples to oranges comparison.
Right.
So you can do both. You don't have to do one or the other, right? Like you can have an investment where you're actually growing money. You can have a life insurance policy where it's a permanent policy. Because the thing about the life insurance also is that hopefully you don't die in 20 years.
Right.
It's like
Nobody wants that.
I mean, you have term insurance. Most of the term policies don't pay out because most of the time people don't die within that term.
Right.
So if I have a 20-year term policy, I don't want to die in 20 years. So, it's good to have just in case. But the whole life, everybody's going to die eventually.
Right.
So it doesn't matter whether I'm 90 or 100 years old, I can still leave a legacy for my family.
Right.
So these are things that, people have to understand. And a lot of times in our community, it's unfortunate, especially, we talk about like Aretha Franklin, right? She passed away last year, and her estate, it was a mess because she never planned for her estate, right? And one of the things, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that she said that she never really wanted to do estate planning because she didn't want to jinx herself. And it's like, you're going to die. It's not.
We're all going to die.
Yeah, nobody, look, newsflash.
Right.
You're not. It's going to happen, right? So either you plan for it or you don't plan for it, but it's going to happen either way, right? I just want to take a couple of minutes. We talk about estate planning because part of it is on the financial side, like life insurance, stuff like that. But it also is very important to plan on the legal side as well, right?
Right.
So like a will, right? So you're a lawyer. So what is a will? And why should people have a will? Because I think that everybody should have a will. Because a lot of times people have the misconception that if they're not rich, they're not wealthy, they don't need to have a will, or they can wait to have a will. I think that everybody should have a will, and a will can be revised as time goes along. So
Absolutely.
Can you just briefly talk about like what a will is?
Yeah. So basically a will is just like a plan for what's going to happen when you pass away. So you're basically going to say, for all the stuff that I own that's of value, I want it to be given out according to this, in this manner. And if you have small children, which is really, really important, if you have small children to have a will, you're going to dictate who's going to take care of your child. Because if you pass away and you don't have anyone in place to take care of your child, like a godparent is not a legal guardian. So some of us, you appoint a godparent and you say this person, but that's not good enough, basically. So a will is a legal document that as long as it's executed, like signed in the proper manner, is going to basically be able to say, this is what this person wanted, when they passed away with their stuff.
Okay. And then also, I think it's important to have a living will, right? So a living will, from my understanding, is that you have a healthcare proxy and you have the power of attorney.
Yes.
Right? So can you just briefly talk about both of those?
Sure. So the healthcare proxy, basically, if you get sick and you're in the hospital, your loved ones would not be able to make medical decisions for you, right? So the hospital is not going to really take their word for it. And it's also difficult, even if you're a spouse, you may not be able to dictate what happens to that person or how the hospital takes care of him or her. And so the healthcare proxy will say, if I'm sick, I want this person to make the decision and I want them to be able to do these particular things. And a living will kind of goes even further into that. It gives like details of like treatment, like say, God forbid you have cancer. It will say like, I don't want chemo or, whatever the case is. You can detail exactly what type of treatments that you have and give direction to the person who you gave the healthcare proxy to. So they have some understanding on how to act on your behalf.
Okay. And then the power of attorney?
So a power of attorney is also extremely important because if you're incapacitated, like you're still alive, but you can't make decisions for yourself, the power of attorney is going to allow you to appoint somebody to take care of all your finances, your insurance, your bank accounts, your homes, your real estate, taxes, anything. And if you're taking care of somebody, it'll allow that person who has your power of attorney to continue giving like customary gifts that you normally give to somebody or that you're taking care of somebody. So they can handle all those things to make sure that your affairs are in order. And so like sometimes people go, God forbid, into a coma, but they come out, you're not necessarily going to die, but you can't make decisions or you're just sick. So that kind of covers that. No,
it's extremely important. And just I'll take a minute just to tell a personal story. So my grandmother, she had 12 kids, right? Okay. So she had Alzheimer's disease. So when she was in the last stages of her life and she was in a coma and she was in the hospital. So long story short, half of her kids wanted to keep her alive.
Okay.
The other half of the kids were like, this isn't a quality of life. Like, we need to pull the plug. Yeah. Now they're fighting with each other. Who really knows what she wanted, right? But if she would have done that and written it out, like, look, don't keep me alive, like, or keep me alive, it wouldn't be an argument. So regardless of how you feel, you can't make a decision because it's already put in place.
Right.
This is just, and also she owned a home, and once again, she didn't have a will, right? So now you have 12 kids that have different ideas of what they want to do with the home.
Right.
Some want to rent it out, some want to sell it. So now it just causes fights. You break up families, brothers and sisters stop speaking to each other. It happens all the time. It's pretty common, right? So this is an unfortunate situation, and this is something that we have to plan for. So thank you for coming and and giving your expertise, because like I said, it's important, especially in our communities where we don't know a lot of this stuff.
And it's not a conversation we're having.
No, we're not.
Right. So it's like, hopefully, like this conversation here opens eyes. Like, hey, this is something we should plan for. Because, like what you said, nobody is planning. Doesn't to die, but we should, right? Because, like we said, it's not for the people who live. It's for the people, not for the people who die. It's for the people who live on with our legacies.
My graduates from my school being Forbes, bag drop.
Bag drop.
A mic drop, bag drop.
Bag drop.